Greetings, fellow men of culture. Today, we discuss everyone's favorite heavy-handed, litigious video game developer, Nintendo. Over the last few years, Nintendo has been involved in some high-profile takedowns of ROM hosting websites, as well as going in hard on their owners, no lube. They'll 100% be the first company to come to your house and slap your pee-pee for misbehaving. About a year ago, Nintendo brought the ball crusher down on an individual named Gary Bowser. No relation, I guess, who, after spending 40 months in prison, now has to pay Nintendo 25 to 35% of his income for the rest of his life. I would have rather stayed in prison.
Hang up that computer call, come over here and kiss me on my hot mouth. I'm feeling romantical.
However, this man was responsible for a pretty large enterprise that involves selling mod chips for various consoles, including the Nintendo Switch. It's one thing to pirate for your own enjoyment, but this guy probably made more money than I do sucking dick behind the KFC. I can afford an entire double down after a few hours on a good day. Whether or not this guy deserved Nintendo's insatiable Gene Simmons-esque tongue constantly prodding his supple butthole for the rest of his life is debatable. And just to be 100% clear, I'm not talking about Switch games in this video, or any other video game that's currently for sale on the Switch, or pirating software for profit. I'm talking about Nintendo's vast back catalog of games that they absolutely refuse to make money on. Every console generation, for some stupid reason, Nintendo resets their back catalog offerings on their current console. When I was just a little baby, I would go to the store and buy Nintendo Wii Shop points, which I would then exchange for old-ass games on my console. Why would I do this? This wasn't in the ancient times, this was like 2007. I could easily, in a few minutes, and completely for free, get every single game offered on the Wii Store plus thousands more and play them all on my PC. But I didn't. Like a stupid idiot, I paid for these games. Why? Because at the time, having access to a bunch of older games on a real console, not just an emulator, was pretty novel. There was an official way to purchase these games, and that's how I got access to them. There was an easy and convenient way to buy and play these old games, and I was more than willing to slob all over Nintendo's knob in order to get them.
Don't come to my house or else I'll suck your dick, blood.
Remember when those Japanese businessmen would invade your home and throw Wiimotes into your TV?
We would like to play.
Oh. Mama! Mama!
If you make stuff available, people will buy it. Imagine that. The average consumer will probably never even think of emulating. Most people will turn on their console, and if there's a little thing on there that says such and such game is now available, if they want to play it, they'll pay for it more often than not. We saw something pretty similar to this back in 2019 when Blizzard launched Classic WoW. Private servers have been available for every era of World of Warcraft you could possibly imagine for years now, and they're free to play on. The people came back in the tens of thousands to play Classic WoW because they're willing to pay to do it the official way. Blizzard made it available, people paid for it. I even fell for the same ruse a few years later. I was one of the 10 people that bought a Wii U, and guess what? I bought Earthbound on that old bitch. That stupid game had been available to play through various means for years before it was on the Wii U shop. I could fork over several $100s for an SNES copy, even more depending on how complete it is, or I could steal it. Instead, I gave Nintendo $10 for it. I'd rather get rim jobbed for $10 over getting forcefully fucked in the ass for a few hundred.
Don't do it. I'm a virgin.
Back in 2016, Nintendo seemed to have learned this lesson when it released the NES Classic Edition. This thing sold like crazy, and the appeal is obvious. It's a miniature Nintendo Entertainment System with recreations of the NES controller. Every single dad walking through a Walmart would impulse buy this thing. They struck gold again the following year with the SNES Classic. Yet again, this thing sold like my double down blowjobs. Ironically, it was also pretty easy to add your own ROMs to these things, something that Nintendo could have charged for in the form of extra downloadable games if they loved money. Since then, Nintendo seems to be okay drip-feeding older games onto their Switch Online service. The service itself isn't bad. The games boot up almost instantly. You get save states. It's closer than even Game Pass to what I would call a Netflix for video games. The problem is, most of these titles were also on sale for the Wii, then the 3DS, then the Wii U, over 10 years ago. You don't get access to everything the service has to offer with a basic subscription. It's an extra monthly charge to access N64, Genesis, and GBA games. The rate at which Nintendo offers new games to this service is pathetically slow. It doesn't follow a monthly release schedule. Instead, games are added randomly, and you never know what's coming up or how long it will take for whatever game you want to be added finally gets added, if it ever does. You can pay a monthly subscription, possibly never get every title you want, or you could have everything Nintendo has ever made in 5 minutes. If they don't want my money, that's perfectly okay with me. Nintendo is missing out on a gold mine with their older games. If you've ever checked eBay for a GBA or DS era Pokemon game, don't bother, because you'll fail No Nut November if you see these prices.
Holy shit! Did you just come in your sister?
You bet your sweet Bippy I did.
Standalone cartridges go for hundreds of dollars, and people are willing to pay because they love those old games. Nintendo could add an entire new pricing tier to their online service specifically for Pokemon games, and people would pay for it. Nintendo stands to make exactly $0 from the secondhand market, in the same way they stand to make $0 from ROMs. But if they catch you uploading or sharing ROMs, Nintendo's lawyer Jay-Z will come down there and put your hamster up his ass and make you watch. With ROMs, you have the convenience of carrying thousands of games with you, available whenever you want, no internet connection required. There's a dedicated community of ROM hackers for popular games out there that can completely change the way you play these old games. Emulation has come a long way over the last decade. There are amazing front ends to your ROM collection, allowing you to make cool looking menus and adding box art to your games that shows when you highlight a title. You can do as little or as much as you want to make the experience entirely unique to your taste. And it's all free, no subscription, no exorbitant secondhand market prices. Although, some of these software developers accept donations for their hard work, and if you get some heavy usage out of their software, consider sending them a few bucks for making all of our lives a little bit easier. You can play whatever you want, whenever you want, on almost any device that you want. You can even get fan-translated games that never saw official release in English-speaking countries. There's an entire mini industry in these compact emulation devices. I was introduced to them through a channel called Retro Game Core. Nintendo's even gone after that channel because he showed some footage of some old-ass Nintendo games running on one of these devices. He now either censors the footage or just avoids Nintendo game footage entirely. There's an entire world to be explored with these things. Prices range from super budget all the way up to the higher end devices that have more horsepower to play 6th gen titles like PS2 and GameCube. I ended up buying an Anbernic RG40XX specifically to carry around my ROM collection. I can take this little thingy out when I'm riding the bus in order to ignore the homeless man jerking off next to me. Father Gaben once said, "We think there is a fundamental misconception about piracy. Piracy is almost always a service problem and not a pricing problem." And I agree with that. When it comes to older games that Nintendo refuses to sell me, Sailing the High Seas offers a much more valuable service. Nintendo doesn't deserve your money. Now go play some old video games and don't pay for them. And if you made it this far, do all the YouTube stuff, like, subscribe, fuck Nintendo, fuck me, and fuck my ass.